Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews, coming at you guys with my review for The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 16, the finale. Alright, so Season 9 of The Walking Dead has officially come to an end, right, with this finale episode, and, I think a lot of people really enjoyed Season 9, and, I don't know that I felt the exact same way. I know it's actually a little bit unpopular among kind of the hardcore fandom of the show. A lot of people have been saying, this is the best season of The Walking Dead, and I don't agree with that at all, to be honest with you. But, I do think it was definitely a step up from Season 7 and 8, although I did like a lot of the stuff in the back half of Season 8, which kind of redeemed that season for me a little bit more. Either way, I am going to have a video ranking all 9 seasons of The Walking Dead. That'll be coming out probably just after this one, so I'm really looking forward to putting that together, so hopefully you, if you're interested, you can tune into that one. But of course, we will be in this review talking about the finale episode, and also towards the end talking about maybe the Season 9 more broadly, as I just was, with kind of my general thoughts of the season and how this episode has kind of wrapped it up for me. So, as always, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this finale episode, and also what you thought of Season 9 and how this finale and the last few episodes kind of wrapped it up for you, and, how you felt about it, especially after these last couple episodes, right, were kind of the most significant, I would say, out of the back half here for going forward, right, in Season 10. So, and we do know we're getting to Season 10 for sure, so that's confirmed already. But anyways, yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this episode. And of course, if you like the review, please be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. Would really appreciate it. I've grown a lot lately, and really thankful for that. So it'd be awesome if you joined. But anyways, let's get into this one. So of course we'll go over a detailed recap. Hopefully I'll get this one a little bit shorter, but we'll see. So a detailed recap of the episode, then my rating, overall thoughts, favorite character for this one, and like I said, more talk about Season 9 just as a whole and going forward to Season 10. So of course I will talk about the big cliffhanger, who's on the radio. I will give my thoughts, but first let's go in chronological order, try to break some of the earlier stuff down, break down some of the earlier stuff, and then we'll kind of get into that towards the end of the video. So, you know what? This finale was very slow-paced, right? It was not a big action. We kind of knew that going in, right? We knew after last episode that this episode was going to be a little bit slower paced, a little bit smaller scale than last episode. We just lost 10, I think there was actually, some people are now saying that there was closer to a dozen or 15 that died last episode, because there was more that died, just outside of the Pike situation. And so that is totally true. So we lost probably closer to 15 people last episode. And, that's pretty major. So for a finale episode, you'd expect something like that. But this one was actually more like a, episode 12 or episode 11, episode 13 type of episode instead of a finale. Because they kind of moved the finale in effect to last episode. So it's kind of strange, but this one was very slow paced. We start off with this episode before the intro. We got Ezekiel speaking into the radio, basically narrating the fall of the kingdom. They give it a little bit of an explanation here, kind of do the cold temperatures and the infrastructure breaking down we see with the pipes there, right? And that was an ongoing theme this season with, them trying to fix the pipes and, getting a leak and all that stuff. And it seems like the cold weather just finally, they kind of gave out, right? And they weren't able to, kind of, keep them in a working, keep them working well enough to kind of fuel the community. And also, of course, the deaths, right? The deaths factor huge into this and also plays a lot into the social aspect of this kind of community falling apart. So there's various reasons for it, but we do kind of get that narration of, okay, the kingdom is closing and we got to head to the hilltop, right? So they're forced to abandon the community and head to the hilltop. So we see Michonne, Aaron, Daryl, and a bunch of others are still there. And I do wonder how long this has now been since the deaths. I would think, my prediction is that it's been a couple weeks, maybe 3 weeks at most. I don't think it's been quite a month or months. I don't see that. just because I think a lot of this stuff seems really fresh still to a lot of the characters. So to me, it seems like it's been a couple weeks. Seems like most of the people have gone home from the kingdom, or from the fair, who weren't from the kingdom, except for a couple of these guys, kind of the big name guys, which seems a little bit convenient for the whole plot of this episode. But it is what it is. And so anyways, we get some of the big guys still there, like Michonne, Aaron, Daryl, and Carol, and a bunch of others, right? So then we see Ezekiel rolls up the Constitution, takes it with him, points to Tara's name. So I thought that was worth mentioning. Very kind of an emotional thing, and a callback, of course, to last episode with Tara, biting the bullet, I guess that's not even true in this one. She just got beheaded, but anyways, so yeah, just kind of reminiscing a little bit, and we saw that throughout this episode too. They definitely did not forget what kind of impact that had on these characters, right? So then we get Ezekiel says, as we head into an uncertain future, we must be valiant too, all of us together. So he's, this community is falling apart, but the ones that are remaining there have to come together and, kind of, like he says, remain valiant. And that he says that a little bit earlier too in some of his narration. So it kind of rings true throughout this kind of monologue, if you will. And, they kind of have to go into this uncertain future, but they have to go in together, right? Just because I love the line he says later in the episode, and I'll say that too, but he says something about how they lost their house doesn't mean they lost their home, or something like that. And it's a very true statement here for this as well. But I do want to just briefly talk about this. A very quick fall of a massive community that has been a community, I mean, you want to talk about this time skip, it was already very successful before the survivors even stumbled upon that, right, with Ezekiel and the kingdom, and Jesus, right, who's kind of the kind of connector, right, with all the communities, and they were very successful. And then even throughout this time skip, we they kept saying that they needed more supplies, they needed a little help here and there, and that's mainly why they wanted to launch the fair, but they never seemed like they were in dire straits, right? So to me, this is a very quick fall of this community. So to me, if they don't ever go back to the kingdom and it just fell just like that within 5 minutes of screen time, I'm not sure if I'm okay with that. I think, sure, they had some problems, but really? Like, they just abandoned it like that? To me, it seems like they wanted to go to this plot of, oh, well, they got to trek through this winter storm. Okay, how do we get them to do that? Let's just, run down the kingdom and, So it just seemed really contrived to me, and it didn't seem that realistic that this community would just fall like that. I mean, the deaths obviously would have a massive impact, especially Henry's death too, right? Being the king and queen's son, right? But I don't know. I just felt like it was very quick and kind of irrational. I feel like Ezekiel and them would have tried to stick it out as long as they could. And I think they did have a little bit more time. But anyways, that is what it is. It was a quick fall, but it was an okay start to the episode here. So then we get the intro. So we see the group kind of traveling along the road there. We see the snow is starting to come, but just kind of lightly, right? Not the storm yet. So then we see Alden pokes at Lydia a little bit. We get the feeling that most of them blame Lydia, or at least kind of see her as the enemy, right? For what happened, right? As she came from the Whisperers. And, obviously they don't know much about all what happened in her and Henry and all that. So they just see her as kind of an outsider and are able to blame her, right? They need to place their blame somewhere, especially Alden, right? Because he, and others is deeply affected by this with losing Enid. And, they got to have somewhere to place their blame, and so they place it in Lydia, right? And so then we see that Daryl kind of backs her up too. I did like in this episode, one of the visuals was maybe when they were going to Alexandria, that Daryl and Lydia were kind of standing side by side there, walking together. It kind of looked like a father-daughter relationship, and I think that's the dynamic that they're going to build here going forward, especially after Henry, the loss of Henry. And comic book fans, I mean, this is an interesting one because this is uncharted territory for Lydia, and so we'll have to see what they do with her character going forward. But I could really see kind of a redemption thing for Daryl and her, and kind of building that dynamic with kind of a father-daughter relationship. And also, I mean, Daryl relates to her. He was the one who didn't want to give her back to Alpha, in the beginning. So I think that would be a smart kind of direction, a natural direction to go for there. So then we see later she sneaks off into the forest. She finds a walker lodged in a kind of frozen pond, right? And pretty much the whole rest of the walker is like frozen. It looks like its eyes have been, either gouged or, it can't open its eyes anymore. And so it's basically just the mouth, like chomping down, right? And so she slides her sleeve up from her coat and puts her arm right to the walker's mouth. Right, and so we, trying to, and we know that the Whisperers have a different understanding and a different appreciation for walkers, right? They call them guardians. And we saw this with Beta and the fact that when Daryl shot the other guy, he kind of actually felt it, right? It's like they think that they're still alive. They're just in a different form, right? And so I think that's the same with Lydia here. I think she just thinks, oh, well, like, I'll still be myself, but I just won't feel this pain or this guilt, right, from what she feels with Henry. And we see this play out a little bit later, of course, with Carol again, but she is the one who saves her here and kind of tracks her down, and just before the walker is able to bite her arm, she appears and Lydia kind of backs up. So it's very interesting, again, to see that kind of philosophy there with the walkers, guardians type of thing. So we see the storm is coming. It starts to hit here and hit real bad, right? So they realize that they won't be able to get to the hilltop in time before the kind of the biggest part of the storm hits, and so they decide to go to the nearest shelter, which just so happens to be the sanctuary. And Michonne they open up the doors, Michonne comes in, welcome to the sanctuary. It was pretty awesome. So this was a nice callback. I like, because we started this half season off with Negan going to the sanctuary, right? Finding it empty and all that. And then to end the half of the season, we get Michonne, and I'm going back to the empty sanctuary. So that was actually a really nice connection there to see. And they only end up staying there, one night or whatever. Nothing much comes of it. And I did like how some of the other characters didn't even, know what the sanctuary was and all that, which is interesting too, because I mean, it's been 6.5 years, but I would think, or a little bit more, 7.5. But I think a lot of the characters would still know what the sanctuary was. Maybe some of them never been there before, though. So, anyways, that was a nice little sequence there with that kind of bridging the two, the premiere and the finale. That was really great. So we see we're back at Alexandria here. So we gotta get two of these plots going throughout the episode, right? Alexandria and kind of the group trying to find their way to the hilltop. So we get Gabriel, Rosita, Eugene, Judith, and Sadiq. And it looks like they have a few other people in the cabin there with them. They gather in one of the buildings there with working fireplace, as the space heaters, coincidentally do not work. Again, a lot of this episode is contrived to me. And I hate to make this kind of broad point already, but it just seemed really contrived. It seemed like they wanted to do an episode with the storm and the winter. So they take the kingdom, they basically make the kingdom just falls, right? So that this group has to trek across the storm. And in Alexandria, the space heaters just happen to die, right? The day of this huge storm hitting. So it just seems like a lot of convenience. But I will say the concept and the way they worked it out was really great. It turned out really good. So they take Negan with them, of course. They have to take him from the cell because he'll freeze down there, as Gabriel says. So they soon realize that the chimney's ventilation system is broken, that the fuse from the fire are toxic. So nice little lines here from Eugene. Saying all this, the chemical stuff and classic Eugene stuff. So that was really great. And also we see here in Negan, right? He has some good lines in here as well. Before they are forced to go to Aaron's house to keep warm instead because they can't use the chimney because of the toxic fumes. So just one more complication after another, right? But anyways, yeah, the Negan banter was awesome. The father not father type of thing, and just a lot of stuff. And then Negan says, "I missed you, Eugene." Just awesome stuff, right? And Eugene was the one who kind of lost them all at war. I mean, if it wasn't for him that rigging the guns, they probably would have won. And so anyways, just kind of a funny little thing there. So as they open the doors, we really see how bad this blizzard is, just treacherous, right? Crazy stuff. And so they go out with all holding onto a rope where they go out into the storm to try to get to Aaron's house. And this was a really great nod to No Way Out, right? Because this is how exactly they went out of the house, all holding onto this rope. Or at least holding hands, right, in that scene. And it obviously didn't turn out too well in that case. But, it seems like it went a little bit better here. But anyways, I thought that was a nice little reference there. So then we see Daryl and Carol talk. This is one of my favorite scenes of the episode, I have to say. Carol says, I feel like I'm losing myself again. I'm trying to hold on, but I don't know anymore, or something along those lines. I didn't get the exact quote. But yeah, just an awesome scene here. We've seen this. I mean, this has been Carol's arc pretty much the whole way through the show. It's, evil, kill a lot of people she doesn't want to kill. Evil, kill a lot of people that she doesn't want to kill, right? So we're in a little, and she's been like this now for 7 years, right? And so now she's kind of losing herself and kind of going back maybe into that season 8 Carol mode, right? Maybe falling back into that. Where she's just kind of ruthless, killing everybody. Or JSS Carol is a better example, right? And so I did really like this line, and, obviously Henry's death could push her to do that and trying to get her revenge against Alpha and the Whisperers, right? So Daryl says that he will take Lydia away with him for a while and keep her safe, and maybe that will alleviate Carol and the others' pain and grief a little bit more without seeing Lydia there. And honestly, I mean, that's a smart idea. I mean, it's just a matter of time until someone decides to, like Alden earlier, or even worse, attack her physically and try to maybe even kill her. So I think it's a good idea. It doesn't end up happening, but you just see that Daryl is willing to sacrifice for Carol. And she says, you want to leave? He says, no, but I'll do it, right? So really great relationship here building there. And of course, this was at the sanctuary on the stairs. Just another callback. It was really great. So then we see the group decides they must try to make it to the next way station, they call it, as they don't have enough food to last in the sanctuary. But to get there fast enough, right? Fast enough that they are able to survive, get through the storm, and get to the hilltop, they must cross through Alpha's new territory, and they must cross over the frozen lake area there. And nice little line here where Aaron says Rick's bridge would have saved them half a day. So again, a really great callback. I mean, this finale was really great in doing that and tying everything that we've seen throughout this season into this episode. And it was great. I mean, and the way they have to journey through this territory now that was just established last episode, really great stuff. So that was really well done in this one. So yeah, new territory, they have to go through the Whispers. Michonne says that they have to take the risk if they want to survive. They're really out of options, and they have to do, they have to make their way across the new territory, right? They got to take the risk. Daryl says going now through the night would be, meaning they would go undetected. The Whispers will not be able to see them there. And Ezekiel says to Michonne, and they see us crossing that border, it could start something. And Michonne says, so we make sure that they don't. So Ezekiel obviously knowing, and with losing Henry, he knows that, and we get the impression they really don't want to have anything to do with the Whispers, or at least till winter is over, right? Which is convenient for playing into season 10, but it is what it is. We'll forgive them for that. But anyways, it does seem like they really just don't want to interact with them, right? We do kind of, obviously we know that war is going to break out again and that they're going to fight them. Happens with every villain in the show. But right now, it just seems like they don't want anything to do with them, right? And so crossing their territory could start something, and that's just not what they want, especially because they have elderly and the kids with them on this journey. So if they're attacked by the Whispers here, yeah, they could probably put up a good fight, but we already saw last episode, Whispers aren't afraid of killing kids. And, that could happen again. And that's just, that's just horrifying, really, right? And they don't want to deal with that, of course. I definitely understand it. So then we see the Kingdom group crosses over past the Pikes into Alpha's territory to get to the Way House, or at least kind of get to that path towards Hilltop. And as they pass the Pikes, Ezekiel and the others kind of pause a little bit. And this was great. Little, kind of obviously giving back to that feeling that they had to cross these pikes and kind of remember again. Even though Ezekiel was not there to see the heads, I don't think he would have ever saw the head of Henry. Obviously, he knows what that means and what kind of impact that had. I do have a question, though. So these 10 pikes are about 20 feet of this entire border that Alpha has set up. I mean, it's not just like it's a 20 feet border, right? Like, this is huge. how does this group cross at the exact same spot where these pikes are? I mean, we're talking like 20 feet. These pikes, and just miles probably of this border, and they just coincidentally have to cross over this exact same spot. It just seems really convenient to me. And again, that's something that the comic books, if you look at some of the images with that Pike situation there, where they had it very spread out. I mean, you could see it, that it went on for a while, but in the TV version, it's literally just like 20 feet. Like the pikes are about, 2 feet away from each other and just in this straight line. And just at this one little hill. And so to me, it's like, wow, this crew had to walk right where the pikes were. They couldn't walk anywhere else. And so it did seem really rather convenient, but it set up a nice scene. This is exactly what I'm talking about. The scenes were nice the way they played out, but getting there just felt contrived. That's what I felt like about this whole episode. So anyways, as they cross into the trees, they find 3 walkers standing, but they are frozen in place. This was a really awesome thing, and something that I didn't even think about really, right? I mean, does this happen to all the walkers in the winter? I mean, this is the first time we've ever seen winter in The Walking Dead, so it really created a lot of new questions about the walkers, actually, and how they actually fare in winter. So it appears that they're very easy to take out, because we see another frozen one at Hilltop there, where, they're just frozen. Like, you could literally just tap them and they just, crumble, right? And so it's just kind of a funny new thing that we've never seen before. But it was obviously setting up that tension and that kind of pressure of the situation, right? Kind of really tense, because it looked like the Whisperers were standing there, right, and guarding their territory, but it just ended up being a few frozen walkers. So they finally get to the lake crossing, and suddenly walkers start emerging from the snow, coming alive just before they start crossing over the ice. Kind of a cool concept here again, working with the walkers coming out of the snow, kind of grabbing Daryl's ankles, right? So this was a cool little sequence too. But we do see eventually, after a little bit of suspense, we see that the group makes it across. Michonne and Daryl can take care of the rest of the walkers, and no Whisperers are there yet. And then I think Alden asks, are they here, right? Or are they the Whisperers, pretty much, these walkers? And Michonne says, not here, not now. So they figure out that the Whisperers are not going to come out in the winter. And we also see a little bit later, right, we get a glimpse at Alpha and Beta, and it seems like they weren't even close to where the group was. It seems like they weren't even there. I mean, it looks like they went really far south for this storm, or for the winter. So just kind of funny, like they probably weren't even anywhere close. I mean, within hundreds of miles maybe even, yet the group was still on kind of eggshells because of what happened last episode. So it's really crazy. Let me see, Lydia runs off again. Right, so Carol catches up to her in the forest there. This was a really powerful scene, probably one of my favorites too. Lydia blames herself for the deaths of the people, and especially Henry. She says that she is the reason Carol's son is dead. The only solution is to let her go, and she, basically wants Carol to kill her, and obviously she wants... that sets up a situation where nobody needs to know what happened. Carol can just return and, say Lydia got lost and I found her dead or something like that, right? Lydia obviously doesn't want, Carol to bear that responsibility of killing her. And obviously Daryl would not be, very happy with that either, right? So this was really interesting. I think this is actually a pretty good debate. And is she to blame for Henry's death? Obviously, I don't think so. Did she contribute to it? I mean, maybe, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? If she had never, if she had never kind of connected with Henry and Daryl had not felt for her and they wanted to keep her, I mean, maybe, right? Maybe. Or if Michonne, when she talked to her, Lydia listened to her and she just left. Maybe that would have avoided it. But again, it's way kind of above that now, right? I mean, this is on Alpha, not on Lydia. But anyways, we see this guilt kind of taking over Lydia for this at this point. So this was awesome. I'm like, look at the flowers? Like, is this happening again? Right? Flashback to season 4, The Grove, with Lizzie. Carol shoots her down there. Look at the flowers. I'm like, are we getting another, look at the flowers moment here? Like, this is crazy, right? Carol's killing 2 kids in the show. But no, we do see that Carol kind of holds back. She does not kill Lydia. Lydia says, please, Carol, everything is going to be better when I'm gone. So some really serious things to say for Lydia, right? She brings her Carol brings her spear up, or sorry, Lydia brings Carol's spear up to her throat and tells Carol, do it for Henry. So some really powerful things, right? Lydia's trying to get her to do it. Then Carol goes around her to kill a walker, and she says, you're not weak, we have to go. And they just kind of walk off. So, I think, honestly, Carol considered it, though. I have to say, I saw it in her eye. I think that she actually did consider it. Even if it was just, kind of a millisecond, I think it crossed her mind that she was going to kill her. But of course, Carol is not in that state, and Lydia is not Lizzie, and so that whole look at the flowers thing, I really didn't see happening here. But again, I mean, Lydia's future as a character in the show, I'm not really sure on that either. So I was like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they had killed her off. This would have been a really extreme way to do it, though. But anyways, and it's something that Carol would never forgive herself for, right? We've never heard her really bring up Lizzie and the look at the flowers thing in a while, which, by the way, I don't know why we haven't, but anyways, we haven't heard that brought up, but I do think she would still feel that at this point, 7.5 or 8 years later at this point, and I think this would, this is not something Carol does. She doesn't kill kids, except for, weird kind of serial killer deranged little kids. But anyways, so we see Negan finds Judith after she runs off after the dog, and we see a piece of wood flies into his leg in the wind. Gets him pretty bad, actually, but he's able to find Judith there eventually with the dog. Gives his coat to her to keep her warm, and Negan says, you just wanted some more Negan time. That was awesome, right? And she says, your leg looks like shit or something like that. Language, we get that. So anyways, a nice little scene here between Negan and Judith. I still can't believe watching this, that this is Negan and Rick's daughter, right? Like, if you think about this, it's just really crazy from where we were in season 8, but it is what it is, and I love it. I love the Negan and Judith dynamic here. One of my favorite character kind of relationships or dynamics throughout season 9. So I really did like this. So Negan picks her up, and he takes the dog on the leash, and they try to find a warmer place. So again, this was kind of his redemption story in this one, which wasn't too major. I mean, I think any decent person would go out and save the young girl, but I'm surprised that he was the only one who did do it. It's like, why did, or I guess Michonne wasn't there, but why would Gabriel, or Rosita, or Sadiq, like, why would they not go after Judith? But anyways, it was nice to see Negan kind of do that. So let me see, the Kingdom group finally makes it to the hilltop. They stay in the mansion room, which we've seen lots. We saw that lots in season 7, right, with Gregory. Rest in peace. So Daryl tells Lydia her and him are going to Alexandria the next day, possibly to get her away from the rest of the group, right, from what he was talking about before. However, Carol decides to go with them. So it's not like she's taking her away from Carol, right? Carol tells Ezekiel that she's going with the others to Alexandria and thus leaving him and the rest of the, Kingdomers at Hilltop. So, she says, he says that she must do this, right? It's kind of a natural progression here that she must do this. And Carol says, I'll never forget the fairy tale. So, and she also, tries giving his ring back, but, he says, keep it. So, this was interesting, Ezekiel and Carol kind of breaking up over the loss of Henry. It just seems like Carol needs some time away from Ezekiel and the rest of the people that are going to constantly remind her of Henry. Although, I then don't understand why she would go with Lydia to Alexandria. That doesn't make any sense to me in this kind of narrative. But anyways, it is unfortunate to see Ezekiel and Carol break up. It was a really nice relationship, and I liked what they were building there. But it is what it is, and it does make sense, right? I think Ezekiel would need his time too. I mean, obviously he didn't see the head necessarily, but obviously the impact for him and him, still being with Carol, is obviously gonna cause some stuff there. So, also like Jerry mentioning the King Top or whatever, that was nice. Seeing him in this episode was great. I mean, he's always the moments of levity, throughout the series, and He's been great. I thought he might die with his pikes in last episode, but I'd like to see Alpha take him on. Honestly, maybe Beta would take him, but Alpha, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, she is a pretty damn good fighter, but Jerry's a big guy, and if he had his battle axe or whatever, that would be awesome. But anyways, so yeah, we get Carol and Ezekiel breaking up. So Michonne and them then arrive at Alexandria. We see the kids and adults have a good old-fashioned snowball fight as they get there. Really nice moment of levity in this episode, especially given all the dark and the themes they're working with, Lydia's suicide, and, being attacked in this winter storm, Judith running off and Negan saving her. So a lot of kind of dark themes and kind of, dreary kind of episode. And this was a very nice moment of levity, right? Even Carol and Lydia join in, right, on this snowball fight. And, obviously those, Lydia wanted her to kill her, right? Just, a few hours ago, presumably. And Carol obviously still reeling, and so it was great to see them there, and we get the idea. Great to be home, right? Great to be home in Alexandria, and I'm guessing that's the first time that Carol has been at Alexandria, right? For a damn while, so it's been a long time for her, so that was really great. So we see Michonne and Negan talk. She thanks him for saving Judith. You've always had something for the dramatics. That is right? Michonne says you've always had something for the dramatics. That is true. He says she's been through a lot, and, it's kind of the least he could do, right, to save Judith. And we know he didn't really do it for her, right? We know that he actually cares about Judith, and say what you will, he probably is a little bit psychopathic, or maybe he's been a little bit rehabilitated, or kind of at least seen a different way of doing things, through his kind of jail cell stay, right, after the last 7.5 years. But he was never, he killed Rapey Davey, right? He never quite went over the line. Obviously he's going to save kids. I mean, he would never kill a kid, I don't think. He was never about that, and I don't ever think he would have went through killing Carl either. So, it is what it is. He really has been at least redeemed a little bit, throughout this little arc here in season 9. So, anyways, they discuss crossing over the Whisperer's territory in order to go to the Sanctuary. Negan says it's a common enemy and a common goal, and that's what kind of brought them together in that, that they were able to cross the lake without being detected or, any conflict happening, right? Michonne instead says, facing evil brings good people together, right? So kind of contrasting views here, and Negan says that's the same thing, but nobody ever thinks they're the evil one. I thought this line really resonated. Really did. Really rings true in All Out War. Just because we were on the side of the survivors, if you start to look at that objectively, and you see, the survivors killed like 20 to 30 people in that outpost in Not Tomorrow Yet. They killed a lot of saviors throughout that time, and, Negan obviously bashing Abraham and Glenn's heads in. Those are impactful characters for us, but, if you really look objectively, it really does seem, Rick and them didn't think they were evil, and neither did the saviors. And so in that, I really do feel like that really resonated well, and you might need Negan's approach for this war against the Whisperers that's coming, and that's where a lot of people are talking about, release the Negan. I love that. And that's maybe what we might need, right? That really is what we might need going into this Whisperer war, and then after that, we'll see what they do with Negan. But I really do feel like his kind of approach, and kind of saying a common enemy, a common goal, is what is going to take place in Season 10. And so a really great kind of discussion here. And also a nice little nod because he was there at the end of Season 8, and then he's in that same bed at the end of Season 9, 7.5 years later. So that was really great there as well. And then we quickly see a quick scene with Alpha and Beta discussing what is going to come next. She says, what is going to come next. So she obviously knows that some conflict is going to be happening here after her, kind of big showing with, the pikes on, or the heads on pikes, right? And then we see Beta start whipping her in the arm. So that was interesting. But again, it does look like they were in some place where there has been no snow, and there's been no snow for a while. So either this is a time skip, or they're like miles and miles away. They kind of migrated down south for the year, or for the winter. So it is what it is. You can kind of interpret that either way. But I did like that they showed it. I was really surprised they didn't show more of the Whisperers. But yeah, we only get that, minute quick scene there. Anyways, so to end off the episode here, big cliffhanger, right, to end the season, back to the hilltop where Ezekiel speaks into the radio, how we started off the episode, right, so that scene before the intro connected back to the end of the episode. I believe that was all within the same scene, but they just broke it up in the episode, right, so that was really great too. I like when they tie it back together. On the other end is Judith, right? And she says, maybe you guys can go back to the kingdom someday. And this is where the line comes in. Just because we left our house doesn't mean we lost our home. Really great line there. And I do think that Ezekiel and them are going to head back to the kingdom when the spring comes. But we'll have to see. Again, I really think it was a quick fall. And so to see them going back there, I think would be fitting. So then Judith says she's off to do her homework, and they both say over and out, right? So that was really great there. And Judith kind of getting into the lingo, right? The radio lingo. So that was cool. And then Ezekiel leaves the room. We zoom in on the radio, and a voice comes in. This is what I heard. I heard, hello, is there anybody out there? That's what I heard on the radio, guys. Crazy stuff. So there were some theories going out that this would be Rick's voice at the end of the episode. And let me tell you, you know how impactful that would have been? I was like on the edge of my seat watching this episode. I'm like, Rick, it's going to be Rick. And it wasn't. It's a female voice. And I feel like they did do that purposely, because if it was a male voice, everyone would have thought it was Rick. I mean, and this is a very crackly recording, so it's very hard to tell. My first thought was it's Jadis's voice. A lot of people are saying Maggie, or it could be also Stephanie from the Commonwealth from the comic books. But, either way, I really don't think we'll find out until season 10. It's not to the magnitude of the season 7 premiere, like, oh, who does Negan kill? But it is going to be a topic of discussion here for the rest of the summer going into season 10. And I feel like that's the way they wanted it, right? They wanted it to be a mystery, and so that we would be kind of speculating and guessing all the way through. And they also leave it open. I mean, honestly, this could really be any female voice. And so I really think they leave it open for what they want to try in season 10. And if they do bring Maggie back in season 10, then okay, I could get behind that this is Maggie on the radio. Now, if they decide to send Michonne off to Rick in the very beginning of season 10, well, that could be Jadis's voice. So really leaving it open, I think, for themselves even, where they want to take this, because there's a lot of things that we don't know yet, right? Like Maggie returning, Rick's movies, Michonne leaving. So there's a lot of moving parts right now. And Fear the Walking Dead, people are talking about a crossover in season 10. So we'll see what happens there. But this really could be anything. So to me, I heard Jadis, but that was just my first impression. You know what I find too is I've listened to it now 3 more times. And because the first time I thought it was Jadis, I tend to hear Jadis's voice, and I tend to think in my mind that it is Jadis, even though I've been listening to it over and over. So it is a little bit kind of hard to hear that. You hear that with those little voice tests, right? The Yanni or whatever, those tests, where the first thing you hear, you typically hear it again and again and again. It doesn't matter how many times you watch it or listen to it. So anyways, it is what it is. So would have been awesome to hear Rick's voice, right? But, still good. Really great cliffhanger to end off season 9. Alright guys, so my rating for this finale episode, it's going to be 4.3 out of 5. For those of you who've been, watching my reviews for the rest of the season 9, this is pretty low. And I think this is justified. This was honestly a lackluster finale. As a finale episode, typically for The Walking Dead especially, you expect a character death, right? You expect a big cliffhanger. These are things that we've seen, I would say except for season 8, really. I mean, that was kind of the first finale that we didn't have a massive cliffhanger or something happen, like in the whole show, honestly. So, kind of crazy stuff. But this one, again, was a lackluster finale, but again, it was expected after last episode, the huge ending there. So a lot of people are talking about why wasn't last episode the finale then? And I tend to agree. I think this winter thing, although it does make sense because they're probably not going to come back with winter in season 10, so they want to, leave a little bit of time skip in between seasons, which is understandable, right? It's expected, but it is definitely a question, right? Why have this episode after the Heads on Pikes? It would have been a more effective finale last episode. But anyways, it is what it is. A very slow-paced finale, but I do feel like it was pretty good. Again, I like the snow/storm concept, but it seemed really contrived. I went through this in the recap, but, just the kingdom falls. Oh, coincidentally, the group has to go right through this storm. Oh, all the heaters die in Alexandria. They have to go through this storm. So the story itself didn't feel ready for this whole storm thing, but it just seemed like, oh, we gotta try to do snow in The Walking Dead, right? And you know what? I do kind of, admire Angela Kang's ambition here, right? With trying snow. She was the writer, Greg Nicotero directed this one. Trying this snow concept and this whole snowstorm thing, but it just felt really contrived at this point. I mean, I think it really would have worked better in a season 7, season 8 even, the first half of season 8, where you had some down episodes. This one, I think a lot of people were expecting from a big episode with the Whisperers, right? Going to this finale, and or not necessarily a big one, but at least kind of correlating with the theme. And this one just seemed like kind of a standalone episode, but it was a finale episode, and that's what this storm kind of made it seem like. So to me, it just seemed really contrived at this point in time. And it would have worked better if it was, an earlier episode, I think. So, anyways, I did like what they were working with, though. Love the Carol, Daryl, and Lydia story. This kind of development here. If you want to include Ezekiel in there, too, I really like it. And you know what? Well, comic book readers, we don't know. We don't know what they're going to do with Lydia here. So, it's going to be interesting to see where they take her. Negan Redemption was awesome. I really liked it in this episode. And we got to release the Negan, right, for season 10 to fight Alpha and Beta. Negan with Lucille against Beta is going to be the best fight. I don't care, Daryl and Beta, that was okay. Rick and Negan, okay. Rick and the Governor, okay. But Negan and Beta, I mean, that's just going to be crazy. Can't wait. We have to see that in season 10. That would be great. So, yeah, hopefully they'll let Negan free, and we'll see what he does. And obviously then, Who's on the Radio is the big cliffhanger for this year. And, of course, we'll probably debate it for a few months here until October rolls around with season 10. But yeah, to me, it's Jadis, but we'll have to see where that goes. So, favorite character for this one is going to be Carol, played by Melissa McBride. Thankfully, we do know Melissa McBride is sticking around for at least another 2 years in the show. She signed a 3-year overall deal, so her and Norman Reedus. So we know both of them are at least into it until the end of season 11. And so it is going to be great to see Carol's arc going forward, especially after Henry's death and seeing where that goes. So a lot of people think that she might be the one to kill Alpha. Here's hoping. I mean, that would be a pretty awesome redemption story for her as well. But we'll have to see. And we'll have to see if she goes back to like JSS Carol too in season 10. And she kind of falls off a little bit as she's talking about in this episode, losing herself again. So I'll have to see if she goes into that as well. But anyways, Melissa McBride, awesome job this season, as a lot of the cast. They're really great this season, for sure. Killy Fleming was awesome coming in. Cassidy McClincy as Lydia was great. And, of course, Samantha Morton, Ryan Hurst. Ryan Hurst is probably my favorite. But they were all pretty good, all the new additions this season as well. But anyways, guys, just want to thank you for watching this review. And if you've been sticking around for the other reviews for this season, really like to thank you guys. Really appreciate it. Another good season of The Walking Dead. I wouldn't put it up in the top seasons, but it was a good season overall. I can say that. And, I'm really looking forward to season 10 in October. But anyways, guys, again, thank you so much for watching this review. Thank you so much for your support on these reviews and the channel. I really do appreciate it. And, guys, we'll see you in October for season 10. It'll be a little while, but it'll come fast, as it always does. Anyways, guys, that's it for season 9 of The Walking Dead. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in my next review.